Jacques Renard had never stepped foot inside a place that smelled this clean. The floating palace of Astries Prime carried the faint scent of ionized air and polished crystal, nothing like Dock District 9 where coolant leaks, rust, and engine smoke clung to your skin no matter how many showers you took. Even his clothes felt out of place, a patched gray work jacket, sleeves rolled from years of overheating engines, and boots scuffed by metal gratings. He shouldn't have been here. He definitely shouldn't have been surrounded by nobles in shimmering cloaks and soldiers in armor so polished it threw back the light like a mirror. But the maintenance request had come through the guild address with a stamped imperial seal, ventilation calibration for the banquet hall. 1 afternoon of work. Enough pay to knock out 2 weeks of debt. Jacques couldn't say no. He walked across the landing platform and entered the palace's central atrium, carrying his toolkit like a shield. Holographic banners rippled overhead, showing the Emperor's crest, a phoenix rising over a starfield. The corridors branching from the atrium were a labyrinth of white stone and transparent glass strips showing the planet's skyline far below. 2 palace supervisors pointed him toward the banquet hall. "Follow the violet corridor until you see the crystal doors," the older one said. "Don't talk to anyone. Don't touch anything," the younger added, eyeing his grease-stained jacket. Jacques bit back a retort. He wasn't here to impress anyone. He followed the corridor into a chamber so massive it took his breath. The banquet hall stretched like a miniature city under a dome of translucent plates. Light refracted through them, scattering soft, gold illumination across hundreds of floating tables. Nobles and officials were already gathering, their voices blending into layered murmurs. A palace drone scanned Jacques and flagged him with a yellow work pass that hovered near his shoulder. "Maintenance access lane, northeast sector," it said in a clipped tone. Jacques nodded, though the hall's layout made little sense. Everything seemed designed to confuse anyone not born into wealth. The maintenance alcove had to be somewhere near the ceiling vents, but he saw no clear access. The air felt warm. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since dawn. "Finish the job first," he muttered. "Food later. Pay even later." He maneuvered through the crowd, careful not to brush against extravagant robes or ornate armor. Every few steps, someone glared at him as if his mere existence lowered the palace's value. He kept his head down and tried to avoid staring too long at the suspended chandeliers, massive prism clusters that cast swirling patterns across the tables. He scanned for a quiet corner, somewhere to think. The hall buzzed like a live engine room, only instead of machinery, it was human arrogance creating the noise. He spotted an empty circular table near a row of tall windows overlooking the Capitol. Its placement felt odd, private, elevated slightly, almost ceremonial. But it was empty, and his legs were tired. "Just for a moment," he whispered. He sat. The cushions were too soft. They swallowed him like a memory foam trap. He let out a quiet sigh and rubbed his temples. Maybe once the hall filled completely, he blended enough to slip along the walls and find the vent panel. A hush began spreading through the crowd. Jacques didn't notice at first. He was too busy adjusting the strap on his toolkit, thinking through the vent system's usual structure. But then the silence rolled closer, like a wave cresting toward him. He glanced up. Every noble nearby stared at him with faces twisted in shock or horror. A few grabbed their companion's sleeves. One woman pressed a hand to her mouth. Then he felt it, an instinctual, primal warning. Something was wrong. Very wrong. A shadow fell across the table. Not from above, from behind him. He turned slowly. An anti-gravity throne hovered at his back, its silver frame pulsing with faint blue light. Seated within it was Princess Lyra Astrian. He froze. The stories always described her as ethereal, silver-eyed, serene, untouchable. But nothing had prepared him for the reality. She sat perfectly still, her hands resting on the chair's curved armrests. Her hair, pale as frost, fell down her shoulders in flawless strands. Her eyes were open but motionless, fixed forward with an eerie, unblinking calm. The Emperor's daughter. The silent heir. Paralyzed since the incident, 7 years ago. Jax felt the blood drain from his face. He had sat at her table. The private table reserved exclusively for her. A sacred space under imperial law. "Oh no!" he breathed. Guards surged from the hall's perimeter, armored boots pounding against the polished floor. Energy staffs snapped to full charge. Voices shouted commands. A dozen nobles stepped back, forming a widening ring of fearful fascination. Jack shot to his feet, nearly toppling his chair. "I swear I didn't know!" A guard's voice cut through the hall. "Step away from the princess immediately!" Jax raised his hands, palms open. "I didn't touch her. I didn't even know." "Silence!" another guard barked. "Clear the hall!" A tremor of panic raced through Jax's chest. His life was over. Even if he explained the truth perfectly, no one would believe a dock mechanic had wandered into the wrong seat by accident. Treason wasn't a charge, you argued. He took a shaky step back. A sudden whisper touched his mind. A voice, soft, steady, unmistakably human. "Don't move!" Jax jerked as if someone had stabbed electricity into his spine. He looked around wildly. No one near him had spoken. The guards were still shouting orders. The nobles were still backing away. Princess Lyra remained still, her expression unchanged. The voice came again, clearer this time. "You can hear me!" Jax's throat dried. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. He stared at the princess. Her lips did not move. Her hands did not twitch. Her eyes remained unfocused. But the voice. It was definitely hers. The guards grabbed his arms roughly. "On your knees! Now!" Jax didn't resist. He couldn't. His brain struggled to catch up with what was happening. Lyra's voice pressed into his mind again, urgent this time. "Don't speak my name. Don't react. Just listen." He swallowed hard, unable to respond. The guards shoved him onto the polished floor. A noble shouted, "He's cursed! He's possessed!" Another cried, "Execution! It's treason!" Jax clenched his teeth as restraints locked around his wrists. Then, as he was lifted to his feet, the voice in his head softened. "You're the first one who has heard me in 7 years." The hall spun. Jax could barely breathe. "Help me!" Those 2 words landed like a weight he wasn't built to carry. The guards dragged him out of the banquet hall, past shimmering banners and gleaming statues, down a dark corridor that swallowed sound. The voice whispered one last time before fading into silence. "Don't be afraid, Jax Renard. This is where everything starts." And for the first time in his life, Jax realized he was inside a story far bigger than the one he'd been born into. The interrogation chamber was colder than the hall, built of polished obsidian plates that reflected Jax in warped fragments. He sat chained to a metal chair bolted to the floor. A single white light hovered overhead, humming softly like a malfunctioning capacitor. The air tasted metallic, sharp enough to sting the back of his throat. Jax steadied his breathing. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his legs were restrained and the door looked thick enough to survive a missile strike. He studied the walls instead, searching for ventilation seams, sensor nodes, anything familiar. Nothing offered comfort. The door slid open without a sound. Lord Valen Draxus entered with the quiet confidence of a predator. Tall, impeccably dressed, dark hair slicked back, eyes cold as carved glass. His uniform wasn't that of a soldier but of a statesman, silver-trimmed black, bearing the insignia of the Dominion's High Minister of Security. Jax's stomach tightened. He knew the name. Everybody did. Valen stopped a few feet away, hands clasped behind his back. "You are Jax Renard," he said, voice smooth. "Dock District 9. Mechanic. Age 23. Debt level, severe." Jax kept his eyes fixed on the man's boots. "Yeah. That's me. Explain why you sat at the princess's table." "I didn't know it was hers," Jax said quietly. "I was looking for the maintenance alcove. Got lost. Tried to sit for a second. That's all." Valen studied him with an unsettling focus. She has not had unauthorized company in years. The palace enforces strict protocols. And yet you, his tone sharpened, sat beside her throne. Jack swallowed. I didn't mean. Valen cut him off. The nobles say you reacted strangely. As if you heard something. Jax's chest tightened. Lyra's voice had been too clear. Too real. He forced calm into his voice. It was a stressful moment, sir. You spoke aloud, Valen said. You claimed the princess talked to you. Jax's pulse spiked. I didn't know what I said. I was panicking. People were screaming. Valen leaned forward slightly. What did you hear? Jax hesitated for a fraction of a second, too long. Valen noticed. The minister's eyes narrowed by a degree. He tapped a console on the wall. A soft energy hum vibrated through the room. A neuroresonance scanner, he said. Harmless. It detects mental anomalies. Jax tensed. Is that legal? In matters concerning the imperial bloodline? Everything is legal. The hum intensified, settling into a low vibration that crawled across Jax's skin. His thoughts felt thick, as if wading through gel. His heartbeat thudded too loudly in his ears. And then, don't react. Lyra's voice slipped into his mind again, quiet but deliberate. Jax froze. Valen suspects the truth, she whispered. You must not confirm anything. His breath caught. He kept his face blank, staring past Valen. The minister examined the scanner's readings. His expression barely changed, yet a flicker of unease surfaced, too brief for anyone but Jax to catch. Renard, Valen said slowly. What makes you believe the princess spoke? Jax forced out the calmest response he could manage. I was scared. People yelled. I thought someone said something. That's it. Good, Lyra whispered. Keep your voice steady. He doesn't know. Not yet. Valen stepped closer. You understand the gravity of this? Speaking falsely about the princess can be considered treason. I know. But I'm telling the truth. It was a mistake. Valen studied him for several more seconds. Then the scanner's hum died abruptly. Take him to containment level 3, he ordered. Jax's blood ran cold. Containment level 3 was rumored to be a place people didn't leave. 2 armored guards entered. They unlocked the chair bolts, yanked him upright, and marched him through a dim corridor lined with silent doors. The chambers changed as they descended, cleaner at first, then increasingly utilitarian, then harsh and industrial. Finally, the guards shoved him into a small cell with transparent walls reinforced by energy filaments. The room held a single cot, a tiny wash basin, and nothing else. The door sealed. Jax paced the confined space, running his hands through his hair. Okay, think. He had no leverage, no connections, no reason the palace would spare him. The lights flickered. A chill swept through the air. And then Princess Lyra appeared in the center of the cell, not physically, but as a translucent projection of light and thought. She looked exactly as she had in the throne, motionless posture, silver hair cascading down, eyes still and distant. Yet here, in this mental space, they focused directly on him. Jax Renard, she said, her voice echoing inside his head with clarity. I am speaking to you through a neural link neither of us fully understands. He stepped back until his shoulders touched the wall. You're talking to me. Actually talking. Yes. Her expression softened faintly. And you are the first person in 7 years to hear me. Jack stared. But you can't move. They said you haven't spoken since the attack. Her tone darkened. The moment I lost control of my body. She moved closer without physically touching the ground. His chest tightened as he realized she wasn't a hologram. The projection existed only within his mind. What happened to you? He asked. A V-wire signal device, she said. Its purpose was not death, but paralysis of consciousness. A lock. A cage. I have been awake all this time, unable to communicate, until you. Jack shook his head. Why me? I don't know, she admitted. But something in your neural pattern resonates with the frequency of the device trapping me. You are the only one capable of hearing me, and possibly freeing me. Jax braced a hand against the wall. I'm just a mechanic. You are more than that. Her voice gained strength. You repaired a freighter engine that 3 certified engineers declared unsalvageable. You survived a plasma breach in Dock 22 using improvised tools no one else would have thought of. You see patterns others ignore. Jax blinked. You researched me? I have had 7 years with nothing but thought and observation, she said lightly. I know many things. The lights flickered again, more sharply this time. Lyra's expression grew tense. We have little time. Valen knows something is different. He fears what you may reveal. If he decides you are a threat, he will remove you. Jax's pulse quickened. So what do you want me to do? Escape this cell, she said. Reach the palace's lower databanks. I will guide you mentally. There you can access the systems connected to my tether. Tether? The anchor holding my mind captive. It must be severed. Jax ran a hand through his hair again. If they catch me, they will execute you, she said quietly. And I will remain imprisoned until the tether ends my consciousness. The cell lights dimmed. Lyra's form flickered, her voice tightening. Please, Jax. If you do nothing, both of us are lost. He stared at her, the weight of the moment settling like an anchor in his chest. Fine, he whispered. Tell me what to do. Lyra's eyes brightened, just slightly. First, she said, look beneath the cot. The guards missed something. Jax crouched and lifted the thin mattress. A loose panel. A ventilation port. And a path out. The princess's voice filled his mind again, stronger now. Good. Now the real story begins. And Jax understood. He wasn't escaping for himself anymore. The vent shaft smelled faintly of burnt wiring and coolant. It was narrow, unlit, and suffocating, but it was freedom. Jax wriggled through the metal tunnel, toolkit strapped to his back, knees scraping against the panels. Every metallic clang echoed, threatening to alert the palace guards. His heartbeat pounded in rhythm with the hum of the ventilation fans, amplified inside the confined space. Lyra's voice resonated inside his mind, calm yet urgent. Left, she instructed. There's a junction ahead. 2 paths, choose the upper branch. Jax twisted, pressed his shoulder against the metal wall, and followed her guidance. The trust between them felt strange. He'd never met her, yet he obeyed her directions without hesitation. How do you know this palace so well? He whispered, though he knew she would hear it. Because I've memorized it, she replied. I've had nothing else for 7 years. Her tone was flat, but a hint of humor flickered. Every vent, every guard rotation, every hidden door. He nearly laughed at the irony. A princess trapped in silence, guiding a lowly mechanic through corridors he would never have dared to enter otherwise. The vent ended above a side corridor leading to the palace's lower databanks. The metallic grates slid easily under his fingers, revealing a narrow hallway dimly lit by red emergency lights. Jax exhaled, letting relief wash over him. Okay, we're in. Now what? Lyra's voice softened, almost intimate. The tether. It's how Valen maintains control. I am connected to a network. My consciousness anchors a series of V-wire-derived neurogrids. When fully active, he can manipulate the minds of anyone within range. Jax froze. Anyone? Everyone, she said simply. Soldiers, nobles, civilians. All under his influence. The weight of her words pressed down on him. Every petty worry he had about debt or danger in Dock District 9 seemed irrelevant. This was bigger. Far bigger. He looked around, taking in the hallway. Doors lined the walls, each leading to storage rooms, offices, and secure chambers. The red light cast shadows that flickered like specters. So, you're saying if we don't stop him, the entire empire could be under his control? Yes, Lyra answered, steady but chilling. And I would remain a prisoner, my mind a beacon stabilizing the system. That is why I needed you. You can hear me. You can act. Jax's hands tightened around the toolkit. But I'm not. I don't have training. I just fix things. I'm a mechanic. That's it. Lyra's voice strengthened. You have skills no trained soldier or engineer possesses. You see patterns, improvise, adapt. That is why I reached out to you. You are not insignificant, Jax. You're crucial. Her words struck him harder than any reprimand or threat ever could. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he focused on the nearest door panel. A simple electronic lock. He examined the circuitry, his fingers moving over familiar lines of energy conduits, tracing paths like veins. The lock responded to his touch, wires sizzling faintly. Jax? Yes? There is a device in this chamber, a neural interface connected directly to my tether. You must access it. He nodded. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple. Where? Through the second door on your right. Guard rotation is minimal. I'll warn you of their approach. Jax approached the door. He bypassed the security panel, manipulating wires and microcircuits with deft precision. A soft click. The door slid open. Inside, a small room hummed with power. At its center stood a cylindrical pod, cables snaking from its top and bottom, intertwining like mechanical serpents. A faint blue glow pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. Jax swallowed. This is it? Yes. Lyra's voice whispered in his mind. That is the anchor. Sever it, and the tether collapses. But be careful. Valen has protective protocols. Touch the wrong cable, and he'll know. He'll retaliate. Jax's hands hovered over the tangle of wires. Every instinct screamed caution. He remembered the countless freighters he'd repaired, the explosions narrowly avoided, the circuitry that refused to cooperate. This was worse. The stakes were no longer just a ship or a paycheck. This was a life, her life, the fate of the Empire. He began methodically tracing circuits, identifying which ones were connected to secondary systems, and which fed directly into the tether. Lyra guided him silently, her mental instructions precise. Careful, 3 o'clock connection, she said. That one is feedback. Do not cut. He froze, fingers trembling. This is insane. I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not a spy or a soldier or. You are enough. Lyra interrupted, firm. Your mind resonates with the V-wire frequency. Without you, I remain trapped. Jax exhaled slowly. The gravity of it pressed down on him, but the clarity of purpose steadied his hands. He moved with calculated precision, cutting wires and rerouting circuits, Lyra whispering guidance like a calm, invisible coach. Suddenly, the door hissed. Footsteps approached. Guards. They're coming, Lyra warned. Keep moving. Don't stop. Jax's pulse spiked. Adrenaline flooded his system. He grabbed a power converter, wedged it into the interface, rerouting energy through the auxiliary conduits. Sparks danced along the cables. The pod hummed louder, and Lyra's voice grew sharper. Almost, now! The last cable disconnected, a blinding flash of blue light filling the room. A shockwave rattled the walls. Alarms blared, red lights flashing violently. Lyra's voice, calm and steady again, whispered, It's done! I feel free. Jack staggered, barely holding on to the console. He heard shouts in the hallway, guards reacting to the alarms, but he didn't move. For the first time in years, the princess's voice rang with clarity, unbroken. I can move, she whispered. I can think. I can feel again. Jax let out a shaky laugh. Relief, disbelief, and exhaustion tangled together. You're alive? Fully. Yes, she said, almost softly. And now, we must act. Valen knows something is wrong. He will come for us. The alarms intensified, echoing down the corridor. Jax grabbed the toolkit. Then we fight. We finish this. Together. Yes, Lyra agreed. Together. For the first time in 7 years, Princess Lyra stood, or rather, moved, her silver eyes blazing. And Jax realized that this dock mechanic, this underdog, had become the only hope for an empire on the brink of collapse. The battle was just beginning. The palace corridors shook under the pounding boots of guards as Jax and Lyra moved toward the central tower. The neurogrid core, the heart of Valen's plan, glowed ominously through reinforced glass, a pulsing lattice of energy spanning the entire control chamber. Each pulse resonated in Jax's chest, a constant reminder of the stakes, the empire, countless lives, and the mind of Princess Lyra herself. Almost there, Lyra whispered in his mind. I can feel the tether weakening, but Valen is aware. He's preparing a countermeasure. Jax adjusted the strap of his toolkit, now heavy with salvaged amplifiers and improvised tools. Then we better hurry. They reached the outer security perimeter. Drones hovered silently, sleek as predatory insects, scanning for unauthorized movement. Automated turrets lined the walls, their sensors glowing red. Lyra guided him through the shadows, her voice calm, precise. Left. 3 steps. The first turret cycles at exactly 0.6 seconds. Wait for it. Jax froze. A misstep would trigger an alarm that could doom them both. He counted silently, then sprinted with a mechanical precision born from years of fixing engines and navigating starship wrecks. The turret fired harmlessly past as he slid behind a column. Good, Lyra said. Now the next. One by one, they disabled turrets, hacked drones with hastily rerouted circuits, and avoided the patrolling guards. Jax marveled at how Lyra's mental guidance worked, subtle and almost instinctive. He realized she wasn't just helping, she was trusting him, and that trust carried weight heavier than any weapon. Finally, they reached the central chamber. A translucent dome rose from floor to ceiling, inside which the neurogrid pulsed like a living organism. Tendrils of glowing energy extended from the core, branching outward like roots, connecting to conduits Jax couldn't fully see. At the center stood Valen Draxus, his figure bathed in the blue glow, hands raised in triumph. You've come far, mechanic, Valen said, voice echoing. But you are too late. The grid will synchronize with my commands, and the Empire will bend to me. Jax stepped forward, holding the toolkit like a shield. Not if I have anything to say about it. Valen's eyes narrowed. You? A dockhand? You think you can stop the culmination of centuries of planning? My device channels the power of the VYR themselves. Lyra's voice pierced Jax's mind, steadying him. Focus, Jax. Find the anchor nodes. Disconnect me from the grid first. That's the key. The moment felt infinite. Guards surged from side corridors, drones swooped down, and the neural lattice pulsed violently. Energy arced across the floor, forcing Jax to leap and twist to avoid fatal contact. Sparks rained down like fireflies in a storm. He reached the anchor node. Lyra's guidance was precise. Cut the red line. No, the blue, wait, divert through the auxiliary panel first. Jax's hands moved faster than thought. Circuits crackled, panels opened and closed, wires sparked and hissed. He rerouted power, carefully severing connections while Lyra adjusted her mental projection, pushing against the tether from within. Valen noticed the disturbance. Stop him! He roared, summoning his personal guard. Soldiers in hybrid synthetic armor charged, blades humming with energy. Jax ducked under a sweep of a blade, swung a jury-rigged rod, and sent a guard crashing into a console. Lyra focused mentally, causing the tether to pulse in ways only he could feel, guiding him toward vulnerable points. Each precise cut severed part of the connection. You're almost there, Lyra's voice urged. One more! The main relay! The final cable pulsed violently. Energy arcs leapt across the chamber, bathing everything in a blinding blue light. Valen raised his hands to amplify the grid's resonance, aiming a psychic backlash at Jax. Pain lanced through his skull as if the grid itself fought him. He gritted his teeth, ignoring the pain, and yanked the cable free. A shockwave exploded through the chamber. The energy lattice shattered like glass, arcs of violet and blue scattering outward. Drones short-circuited mid-flight. Guards were thrown off balance. The floor shook, debris falling around them. Lyra's projection wavered, then solidified into full form for the first time in 7 years. She stood, small but commanding, silver hair catching the fractured light, eyes blazing. A hand reached toward Jax. I can move, she said aloud, her voice trembling with disbelief and strength. Jax, we did it! He grabbed her hand, steadying her as the tremors subsided. You're free. All of it, done! Valen staggered backward, fury and disbelief etched into his face. Impossible! This device was flawless! How? You underestimated humans, Jax said simply. We adapt. We improvise. We fight back. The words carried weight, resonating through the chamber. HFY, the indomitable human spirit, manifested in a dock mechanic and a princess who refused to be silenced. Valen made a final attempt, lunging at Jax with an energy blade. Lyra reacted instinctively, grabbing a nearby console and hurling it. The device struck Valen's chest, knocking him off balance. Sparks leapt, circuits shorted, and the floor trembled. Guards who had survived the initial shockwave hesitated. The palace's security system, destabilized by the destroyed grid, released defensive lockdowns and containment fields. Valen was trapped, immobilized as emergency energy restraints latched onto him. Jax exhaled, sweat mixing with grime. Lyra looked at him, tears streaking her pale cheeks, her silver eyes reflecting both relief and newfound determination. Are you all right? He asked. She nodded. I am. And the Empire, we saved it. For now. The palace was quieting, alarms fading. Citizens and soldiers would eventually return, finding the grid destroyed and the High Minister captured. But in that moment, Jax and Lyra stood together amidst the wreckage, two humans against a seemingly insurmountable threat, proving that courage, ingenuity, and sheer will could topple even the most formidable plans. Lyra reached out, placing a hand on Jax's shoulder. You believed in me when no one else could. You saved me, and the Empire. He smiled, exhausted but proud. We did it together. Her gaze softened, almost mischievous. Perhaps you're more than just a mechanic now. Jax laughed, a deep, honest sound he hadn't made in years. For the first time, he felt that he belonged, not in Dock District 9, not in the shadows, but here, at the center of history, with humanity's triumph shining through the chaos. The neural core lay in ruin, Valen contained, and Lyra fully alive and free. But even as they left the chamber, shadows in the palace whispered of ancient threats, of remnants of the V-Wire still lurking in the void. Humanity had won this battle, but the war for survival, ingenuity, and freedom was only beginning. And as Jax walked beside the princess, his hands still greasy from engines and circuits, he understood the truth of it. Humans, flawed and fragile though they were, would always rise. They would always fight. HFY.